Hi Lisa, thank you for joining me today. Can we start off by just telling me a little bit about your son Brenton? What was he like growing up and what do you think has made him who he is today?
Brenton was always an outgoing little one. From 18 months of age, he was into sport-related stuff. He threw a ball across a room into a garbage bin in an assessment. And so sport has been his passion from very young up until today, and fitness and health and that type of area. He's very sociable, loves to be with people and things like that, but he is severely speech impaired and uses his phone and other devices or other types of things like sign language and writing to communicate. And yeah, he's a joy.
Yeah. So he's always been really into sport. What sort of influences growing up made him sort of get into that passion?
First, it was always in him. He's always been around family and friends that are into sport as well. And realistically, we really encouraged, because it was one of his strengths, really encouraged his community to be around him that are sport related, because it was something that he enjoyed, but also a strength that he had.
And I understand he's got a big part in that sports community, even to this day.
Yes,
yes. Amazing. I understand he's also got Down syndrome. Can you describe what is Down syndrome and what has that meant for Brenton's life?
Down syndrome is a chromosomal disability. So we get 22 chromosomes from each parent. 22? Or 23? 23.
Yeah.
Anyway, Down syndrome is from having an extra chromosome than what you and I would normally have. There are actually 3 types of Down syndrome. So there's trisomy 21, which means that there's a duplication. Instead of a pair, there's 3 on each chromosome, 21. There's also translocation, and there's mosaic Down syndrome. And Brenton has trisomy 21, which is the most common, and it is also the most recognisable physically, like in features. It's impacted him through his learning, his motor planning and low muscle tone. So a lot of therapy, this is where the sport comes in and is a benefit to him. So a lot of therapy and those types of things have been important in his life. All Downs are usually very muscle, have low muscle tone and weight, and a lot of them have heart conditions. Up to a third of them can have a heart condition, which can impact their life and their learning. Brenton had open heart surgery at 4 months of age and his lungs collapsed. He wasn't expected to live, but being the fighter he's always been, he got through that. And it has a stigma, not as much as it used to in the old days, but there's still people out there that don't want to interact with people with Down syndrome because they've never come across it in their own life. Brenton and I have always looked at life as a teaching moment whenever we come across people. We've had kids staring in the line at the groceries and I've said to Brenton, get your phone out and say hello to the girls. And, you know, they're only 3 and 5 years of age and the mother's going, no, don't look at him, sort of thing. And so Brenton's got his phone out, communicated it. By the end of them going through the checkout, and they bye Brenton, waving to him. So that teaching moment, we always take advantage of those sort of times.
He is a very charismatic character, from working with him from day one. I noticed that. I understand Brenton also went through the Australian school system.
Yes.
Can you tell us briefly Brenton's pathway through the education system?
So Brenton started in a daycare centre And then there was a prep school that he went to for 2 years, specifically for people with disabilities, based in a mainstream school, to educate, get them ready for going to school. Then it was a case of, for going into the school system, we had to meet with the principal. We'd been told for 2 years that he was going to go mainstream. And so we organised, the person from the department came, the teacher from that unit, and also the principal, and we had a meeting. It was a bit of a shock because they told me in that meeting that he wouldn't be going mainstream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was the reasoning for that?
He was too short.
Right. Okay.
He's too short, and his communication.
Yeah, sure.
But the first thing that came out was he's too short.
Okay.
And it was like, okay. So he went to the special school, and the person from the department that was in that meeting became the deputy principal for that school, and the teacher. And within 6 months, they went, this isn't the right setting for him. So he went into a support unit within a mainstream school. And then the following year it increased, and then the following year it increased again. So he stayed within the support unit within a mainstream school. And then...
Sorry, what increased? Was it his integration into mainstream?
The days
activities?
Increased.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And also he increased in participation, in that at recess, lunchtime, he was out there playing handball with the kids. They really accepted Brenton because they saw him through that interactive play. And that's where it comes into being that within school, when they're at primary school, a lot of it is focused around socialising through activity, whereas once you get to the high school setting, it's around communication, which is not Brenton's, he's not verbal. So, yeah. So his time at primary school was fantastic. We did have a couple of incidents in that he was thrown head first into a bin, kicked in the groin and thrown head first into a bin. And because the teacher couldn't go into the boys' toilets, she sent in some boys and they found him. The school teacher, who was from the special school based in the mainstream system, she never notified me. It was only through Brenton's showing signs to me that he didn't want to go to school anymore.
Right.
Which had never, ever had we ever seen that incident happen in his life. So we had a meeting with the special school principal, the teacher's aides, the teacher, and also the mainstream school. And I was told he'd been picked on over a 6-week period by these 2 boys. And so that really turned him off going to school. And it was only through their ignorance that they picked on him. And not understanding, because Brenton was very popular otherwise. He was asked in year 6 to join the local, the school team for soccer, and he played in it against other mainstream kids.
Yeah.
So he was really accepted, except for that little incident that happened.
What about high school? Did he go on to...
Yeah, when he in year 6, he trialled at the high school. So the teacher's aide went over with him and he trialled to see how he would integrate into a mainstream high school. And they were up in the staff room watching him, and he lined up with all the rest of the kids at recess to play handball, and they were sort of looking, because they'd never had a support unit within the school before. So they were all sort of looking like, what's he doing?
Yeah.
He got in there and he got 4 of them out, and they were like, oh my God. So the next year it made the transition a lot easier because they knew Brenton through that interaction, and a lot of them were going, I'll have Brenton on my team first out of all the kids that they'd pick, because they knew of his skill and accepted him. So he had a really great experience with the teachers, the aides, the students, everything. And he was mainstream for sports subjects, and he was within the unit for the other, like your maths and all that type of thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's the thing, right? People have domains that they excel at,
Yeah.
and then sport, it's a universal language.
Yeah.
It doesn't need words.
Yeah.
Can you go a little bit more into what Down syndrome has meant for Brenton's learning and participation in school? So, he has the right to access reasonable adjustments in school. How did this work in practice?
So it really flourished when he was in the high school setting. So things around when it come to assessments for year 10 and year 12, he had a teacher's aide that would write for him because of his too slow in the writing. He couldn't be paced enough with the time put on it. They also made an adjustment in that they gave him extra time. So he was given like 5, 10, 15 minutes extra when it came to those mainstream subjects to sit his exam. He had a teacher's aide that would read the questions to him, and he would use his phone to communicate back to her, and she would write down for him to be able to answer those questions. So they made adjustments when it came to the integration into those mainstream subjects. And it really showed in that setting. Not so much, it was more or less the same type of thing going through primary school, being within the support unit for the other subjects, but with the mainstream subjects, a lot of adjustment was made for him to be able to participate. It was really more so in the theory side of it, not in the prac side.
That's right, because he wouldn't have needed
they said that
yeah.
he didn't need the adjustments there. And an example of that was the camp was coming up that they were going on, and the teacher came to me and said, I haven't organised a teacher's aide for him to come on camp with us. And I said, right, what are your concerns? And she said, what does he need? Does he need this? Does he need that? And I said, look, he can toilet himself, shower himself. He just on the gravel, he might be a little bit uneasy because of his balance and things like that. Well, they went away for 5 days. She came back and she said, I would take 10 of him over the mainstream kids. She said he was easy. They were the hard work.
Yeah. So overall, did you feel that the school programs were reasonably flexible and accommodating to Brenton's needs?
They were, yeah, they were. It was the IEP, the individual plan, education plan, was very individualised, and in fact they went above and beyond. A lot of the aides and the teachers within the support unit and mainstream went and learnt sign language, so they could effectively communicate with Brent.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So they really went above and beyond within their own personal time to do that. It wasn't something that the education system necessarily said that they had to have. But yeah, it helped so much because they could then understand when Brenton was signing, because he'll use a number of different modes to get his message across. So yeah, they really made those adjustments for him. Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Were there any instances the school denied an adjustment on the grounds of unjustifiable hardship?
So there hasn't really been anything that they've denied Brenton during the schooling years. I can't think of anything. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
What is the biggest highlight and the biggest challenge during Brenton's schooling?
Biggest highlight. He went on to represent at state in swimming. He had played, it all comes down to sport, I guess, because it was all the mainstream stuff that he did was sport related, and that was a real highlight for him. One of his teachers he still is in contact with, and on World Down Syndrome Day she posted on Facebook, "You changed the way I teach.
Oh,
You made me a better teacher," and that impacts you.
And what do you think is the biggest challenge?
I guess some students aren't exposed to it, and bullying can happen within it. I know Brenton was very accepted, but there was another boy with Down syndrome who wasn't accepted. He'd go and steal the ball at recess and run off with it and stuff. So they sort of shunned him and wouldn't allow him to interact. For Brenton, I can't think of anything that he sort of experienced negatively from a teacher or, actually, a PE teacher in his first year came to me and said that for sport he'd elected to do basketball. And that the maths teacher who was taking it said he wouldn't have him. He refused for him to be with him. She said she fought, and he has been put in the basketball team. And I actually met with him, and he turned around to me and said, I'll only put him on when we're playing teams that I know we can win against. So he refused. And that's, the teachers are an example of how to treat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if they're getting that negativity and seeing that negativity, the children, they then themselves won't accept. They'll pinpoint and isolate that person and exclude that person because they're seeing it in whatever environment. Yeah. So that's really been the only negative thing around his education is
some of the social dynamics,
and
navigating those, which I think in schools, like, we're just so focused on, the academics and getting through, like, ticking all the boxes. And there's nothing really to account for, like, making of friends and being in a group and feelings of belonging. Like, you don't get a grade for that. So
and it's funny because, like, within the PD Health PE part of his schooling, even leaving school, we were invited to an engagement party, and his PE teacher was there, and it was the first time seeing him outside of the school setting. And he said, "I'll buy you a beer, mate." And Brent went, "Oh, no, you taught me at school. ALC means alcohol. No." And he went, "Oh, but you're older and you're allowed." And he went, "No." So he really took it on board of certain things, and he didn't touch alcohol for a long time. And the teacher's like, "I had to teach you that."
What is one piece of advice you have for parents navigating the school system with a child with Down syndrome?
Make sure you build a partnership. That's the first thing. Make sure you're all on the same page, because it's only going to better the child. And also be open to any questions from a teacher, students, and everything. If you're open for any question and not put any boundaries around or be offended by anything, it makes it so much better, because people are very nervous about coming forward and asking questions if they don't know, because they don't want to offend. My attitude has always been open book. You ask me anything, because it's only going to better his education at the end of the day. Yeah.
That's great. And what is one piece of advice you have for teachers supporting students with Down syndrome?
Each one of them are individual.
I thought you would say that.
Yeah. Each one are individual. There's such a wide array. And a lot of it comes down to the relationship with the parents and the child. Again, that partnership. If you haven't got that partnership, the child is the one that misses out in the long run. So it's really important to be able to speak freely and express things that you're finding that they may be struggling with, or they may be really good at. and realistically, at the end of the day, when you focus on the individual person's assets and their abilities, then they build confidence. The student builds confidence, and from that, then you can introduce those other things that they may struggle in, and work on those, and slowly the confidence may build in that area as well. Yeah.
That's a great piece of advice. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. All right. Yeah. Okay. You count us down. 1. Yep. Thank you. 1, 4.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. That was going up and down. wasn't getting to action.
No.
All right.
It's all right.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
It's okay.
Just, yep.
Action. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You sit quietly now.